California Highway Patrol officer is behind the wheel of a Lexus doing 120 miles an hour. He cannot stop the car. His wife is in the passenger seat. His 13-year-old daughter is in the back. His brother-in-law is on the phone with 911, telling the dispatcher the accelerator is stuck. The last words recorded on that call are, "We're approaching the intersection. Hold on and pray. Pray." All four of them died. Toyota had known about this problem for 2 years. That is not an allegation. It is what Toyota admitted in a criminal proceeding after the United States Department of Justice spent 4 years building a case against the most trusted car company on the planet, the company that built its entire identity around reliability. The company Consumer Reports had ranked at the top of its dependability charts year after year. That company ran an internal investigation confirming a fatal design flaw, received questions from federal regulators, and decided to keep its findings internal, while quietly changing the parts in Europe and continuing to sell the same vehicles in the United States. 39 Americans were dead by the time Toyota's CEO sat before Congress. In March of 2007, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened a preliminary investigation into the 2007 Lexus ES350, prompted by 5 consumer complaints describing 3 crashes and 7 injuries. The common thread was an accelerator pedal trapped by an all-weather floor mat, causing unintended acceleration. NHTSA told Toyota it believed several models might be defective. Toyota ran its own internal investigation. That investigation confirmed the problem. Certain Toyota and Lexus models had a design feature that made pedal entrapment more likely. Toyota documented the findings internally and did not share them with NHTSA. Instead, Toyota negotiated the outcome down to a recall of 55,000 floor mats. Not the vehicles, just the mats. No acknowledgement that the cars themselves had a design problem. Internally, Toyota employees described this result as a major victory. 4 months later, a driver in San Jose was killed when his 2007 Camry accelerated out of control. The cause was floor mat entrapment. NHTSA told Toyota a recall was necessary. 2 years of back and forth followed. 2 years during which Toyota continued selling vehicles with the same design. By 2009, a second problem had been identified, separate from the floor mats. The accelerator mechanism itself, manufactured by a supplier Toyota's internal documents refer to as a pedal company, could in some units fail to return to idle properly. In the worst cases, the pedal stayed depressed. Toyota's own engineers flagged it in writing as a defect that was, in their words, important in terms of safety because of the possibility of accidents. Internal instructions went out to dealers. If a customer reports pedal sticking, replace the pedal with one from a different supplier. Toyota told its dealers how to fix the problem without telling customers or regulators the problem existed. In the spring of 2009, Toyota instructed the pedal supplier to begin changing the design in new production vehicles in Europe, with the same change scheduled for US vehicles starting in the fall. New cars would get new pedals, the millions of vehicles already on American roads would not be recalled, and their owners would receive no warning. On August 28, 2009, Mark Saylor, his wife, his 13-year-old daughter, and his brother-in-law were killed near San Diego. Saylor was driving a dealer loaner, a 2009 Lexus ES350, while his own vehicle was in for repairs. The dealer had installed an all-weather floor mat from a Lexus SUV into the sedan. It was incompatible with that model. It trapped the accelerator pedal. The car reached 120 miles per hour before striking another vehicle, leaving the road, rolling and catching fire. The 911 call from inside that car was broadcast nationally, and the scope of Toyota's problem became impossible to contain. Toyota's first recall came on November 2, 2009, 3.8 million vehicles for the floor mat issue. At a press conference, Toyota's US subsidiary told the public, "We're very confident that we have addressed this issue. The sticky pedal defect, the separate problem Toyota had documented for over a year, remained unaddressed. The Corolla, the Venza, and the Highlander had not been recalled. New vehicles were still being assembled with the problematic components. On December 23, 2009, Toyota issued a public statement responding to media reports that the company was concealing additional defects. The statement read, "Toyota has absolutely not minimized public awareness of any defect or issue with respect to its vehicles. Any suggestion to the contrary is wrong and borders on irresponsibility." 3 days later, on December 26th, a Toyota Avalon crashed into a lake in Texas after accelerating out of control. All 4 occupants died. Investigators ruled out the floor mats they were found in the trunk. On January 16, 2010, Toyota informed NHTSA that the CTS Corporation pedals may have a dangerous sticking defect. NHTSA called an in-person meeting 3 days later. Toyota provided field reports on sticky pedal incidents at that meeting, and hours later notified NHTSA it would issue a recall. On January 21st, 2.3 million vehicles were recalled for the sticky pedal. 6 days after that, at NHTSA's urging, Toyota expanded its floor mat recall by another 1.1 million vehicles. That is the company's documented timeline. Internal confirmation of a defect in 2007, no disclosure to regulators, quiet redesign in Europe in the spring of 2009. A public denial of any cover-up in December 2009. A recall announced only after a second wave of fatalities and direct federal pressure in January 2010. On February 24, 2010, Akio Toyoda, Toyota's president and the grandson of the company's founder, testified before Congress. He told the committee, "We pursued growth over the speed at which we were able to develop our people and our organization. I regret that this has resulted in the safety issues described in the recalls we face today, and I am deeply sorry for any accidents that Toyota drivers have experienced." He told Congress he was absolutely confident the causes were mechanical and not electronic. He said the company never runs from its problems or pretends not to notice them. Representative Marcy Kaptur responded directly, "Where is the remorse? I do not think it reflects significant remorse for those who have died." Another congressman held up an internal Toyota report in which employees had documented their success in defusing a safety investigation. A document addressed to Yoshimi Inaba, president of Toyota Motor North America, who was seated at the witness table beside Toyota. Inaba said the document was inconsistent with the guiding principles of Toyota. U.S. Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood told Congress that Toyota had dragged its feet and been safety deaf. NASA spent 10 months reviewing more than 280,000 lines of Toyota software code looking for electronic causes of unintended acceleration. No electronic flaw was found. The 2 mechanical defects remained the only confirmed causes. Toyota ultimately recalled nearly 8 million vehicles in the United States for those defects alone. The financial consequences unfolded over several years. Toyota's stock fell roughly 30% relative to the S&P 500 between September 2009 and April 2010. Sales dropped 16% in January 2010, reaching levels not seen in the prior decade. Ford's stock rose 80% over the same period. The Wall Street Journal estimated Toyota's total financial exposure at over $5 billion, covering recall costs, litigation, warranty expenses, and marketing. Toyota agreed to pay $16.4 million to NHTSA for delaying the recalls. A separate class action settlement reached $1.1 billion, including $250 million for owners who sold recalled vehicles at a loss during the crisis period. In March of 2014, the Department of Justice announced the largest criminal penalty ever levied against an automaker in U.S. history, $1.2 billion, accompanied by a criminal wire fraud charge and a formal admission of wrongdoing. Attorney General Eric Holder stated, "Toyota confronted a public safety emergency as if it were simply a public relations problem. Put simply, Toyota's conduct was shameful." U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara added, "Toyota stands charged with a criminal offense because it cared more about savings than safety, and more about its own brand and bottom line than the truth. In its zeal to staunch bad publicity in 2009 and 2010, Toyota misled regulators, misled customers, and even misstated the facts to Congress. Toyota, in its own statement, said it had cooperated with federal investigators for more than 4 years and had made fundamental changes to become a more responsive organization. An estimated 90 people died in Toyota vehicles over the 5 years this crisis unfolded, many of them in incidents that regulators for years attributed to driver error. Toyota remains one of the world's largest automakers. Consumer Reports still ranks it among the most dependable brands. As of 2026, the company is facing a separate class action lawsuit alleging concealment of known defects in its 8-speed automatic transmission, with more than 5,000 federal complaints on record and internal engineering communications cited as evidence of what the company knew before those vehicles were sold. Toyota's own engineers had put it in writing, a known defect, a documented safety risk. The word they used in their own internal records was important. Important because of the possibility of accidents. The company reviewed that language, weighed it against the cost of a recall, and kept selling the cars.